Hey everyone, I wanted to make this video just showcasing one of my latest game purchases here in Korea. This is the Neo-Geo AES. I bought this this past weekend at the Yongsan Electronics Market in Seoul, and I had seen this particular system at this one game shop there at the market, and I never owned a Neo Geo before, and I was pretty interested in picking up something that I had never seen, having a console that I had never owned. So when I saw this back in January, I just went ahead up to the counter and I asked the shopkeeper there for how much they were selling it for, and they said 250, which means 250,000 won, which is roughly estimating about $235 possibly. And I was like, I kept that in mind. I asked if it came with like the controllers and everything, and they said it did. So I was like, oh, cool. So I didn't really know anything about the Neo Geo before, so I wasn't really ready to just pick it up because I didn't own it. I wanted to do some research and see what I could find out about it, more specifically about the pricing, if that was a good deal or not. 250,000 won is quite a bit. So I went to just searching on eBay for price comparisons and any sort of dedicated Neo Geo forums or websites talking about pricing, and surprisingly, or rather not unsurprisingly, it was not that bad of a price. Some of those systems were going for about about $600, I should say. Like 600, or I think the cheapest I saw was for 280, almost, or 290, almost $300. And I was like, whoa, that's I guess by that comparison, that's the 250,000 is not that bad. So I decided to just when I was there this past weekend, I decided to just go for it and get it. And I know that all I really knew about the Neo Geo before was that it was one of the most expensive systems that was ever released, which was for about $600 back in 1990 or 1991. So I was like, wow, it's still, even nowadays, it's still pretty expensive. And so I picked it up and I inspected it. However, not that thoroughly, as it was wrapped in a saran plastic that I really didn't want to take off because it was raining pretty badly this past weekend, and for all the whole weekend, and I just didn't want to get anything, didn't want to get it wet. I didn't want anything to get inside and damage the board. But I was a little disappointed when I noticed that on the front here it had a small chip in the memory card, close to the memory card slot. But it's not that bad, really. It's still and it has a couple scuffs and just a couple dings and stuff, but for the most part, it's still in okay condition. I was really happy after doing more research, which I'm still currently doing. But one of the things that I found out was that this particular system is an American Neo Geo AES. As you can tell by the model number, Neo AEC. The Japanese versions I believe have model numbers Neo 0. So this is just by that I can tell that this is an American Neo-Geo, and those are a little more harder to come by. They're a little more rarer. So I was like, oh, that was a nice surprise. I assumed that because I bought it in Korea that this would actually be a Japanese system, but luckily I was able to get something a little more not as common, even or by Neo-Geo AES standards. Not only that, but the serial number starts in the thousands, the 4,000. So, and that's just pretty much considered kind of a low serial number. So a lot of people have serial numbers that are way higher. So 4,000, making this the 4,289th system with that particular serial number is pretty impressive. And that would definitely make more sense since it does have like a couple scratches on the casing and like the chip. I mean, for having come out in 1990 or 1991 and being the 4,000 system, that totally makes sense. So I just went ahead and bought this. I was able to get a good bargaining deal from the shopkeeper. He was selling it for 250,000, and I was able to get him to lower it to 230,000 won, making that the American equivalent of $202, and so pretty much $200. I got the system with the arcade stick, which I have like right over there, but I'm too lazy to get up and show it off. But yeah, after it was really dirty, so when after I unwrapped I took off the wrapping, I cleaned it up as best as I could, and it's really not. I'm a lot more happy with my purchase. Not that I was displeased or anything, but I was just like, I was expecting something a little in better condition, but like I have explained already, having the low serial number and it being an American system is definitely cool. Something worthy, I guess, to add to my collection. I was really confused because I wanted to know if this, like, what region it is. I know that Neo-Geo AESs are pretty much region free, and regardless of whether the game is in a Japanese version game or American version game, the system's region will automatically convert the in-game text to Japanese or American. So I only got one game, which I got for 13,000 won, lowered from 25,000 won. It was King of Fighters 94, and that was I just had to get some games so that I can make sure whether the system worked or not. And it was literally because I only had those 13,000 won, just roughly about $10 or so, or very rough estimates, but yeah, about $10. I got the game, and that's really good for just getting a working game. And it was the Korean version of King of Fighters 94. So when I put that game in, all the in-game text was actually in English, so I knew for sure that this was an American system and not a Japanese one. If it had been a Japanese one, as I've explained, all the in-game text would have shown up in Japanese. So yeah, that's like the Neo-Geo that I bought, and I'm a lot more satisfied with my purchase. I did have some kind of bad luck, or that was entirely my fault. When I bought it came with all the the AV cables and the AC adapter, but I was completely stupid and accidentally plugged in the power supply, which is Japanese or American power supply, and I plugged it directly into the power strip, and I had forgotten that Korea uses 220 volts as opposed to 100 volts like they use in Japan, because the system actually came with a power supply that was Japanese, despite the fact that the system was American. I think it was just a mixed match of, parts that they used so that they could actually just get the complete set. But anyways, as soon when I plugged it in, I was ready. I started hooking up the AV cables to the TV, and then I just started smelling like burning. And sure enough, I looked down, and the power supply had like some small smoke coming out of it. And so I completely just turned off the whole power strip, unplugged it from the wall. I took out the power supply, and I was only able to. Well, actually, I took it out, and I kind of just like cooled it down because it was very hot. Afterwards, I actually do have a step-down converter that I use for my PS3, and because I knew about that, yet somehow I forgot about Neo-Geo's fault or whatever. So anyways, I cooled it down, and I figured that if it wasn't messed up, maybe it could still work somehow, despite the fact that I saw smoke. I know it's been done, but I still hooked it up. And I was actually able to get about a good 15 minutes out of the power supply, which I thought had completely died on me. And then I started smelling the same smell again, and I just turned off the system, and I unplugged it, and I put it away in a drawer. So I'm not gonna be messing around with that thing anymore. But yeah, I noticed when I did get to play, I noticed that the in-game text was in English. So just to further prove that the system is actually American, makes me wonder exactly how we got to Korea. But I really don't care all that much, just a bit curious. But yeah, just wanted to talk about the Neo-Geo AES from SNK, of course. And I look forward to picking up a couple more games and having some fun times with this monster. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to own. It's a good thing to own to my collection. And I'm pretty satisfied. So thanks for watching.